Paris. Hi, how are you? Okay. And on behalf of Insights, I'd like to welcome you. We have a very, very exciting afternoon with the interviews today. And Janet Mitchell will come on and tell you more about that. Let me just tell you a little bit about Insights and its history. Insight was started a number of years ago by Janet Mitchell and the co-creator and founder Kimberly Monroe. And what the mission was to really interview folks that had been in the arts, mostly our folks who have been in the arts, who've been in the arts for many, many years. And what you usually see is the end product of their work and dedication to whatever they did, whether they were poets, singers, dancers, actors. And we see the end part of that when they're on stage and performing. But what Insights does, they go inside a person's life because, as you know, getting into the arts and doing anything and becoming good at it is a journey. There's a journey. There's an acquisition of skills along that journey. There's an acquisition of heartaches along that journey. And some people overcome it and some people don't. And the ones that overcome it usually are able to even make their art stronger. So what Insights does is try to let the audience use inside for about an hour or so into that person's life and journey. So that's what Insights has done over the past years. And I was fortunate enough a few years ago to be interviewed for my participation in the arts. And one of my, as you can see around the wall, the descriptions of some of the people who were interviewed. Over here is Gertrude Jeanette, who is the founder of the Hadley Players, who is now 104 years old and alive and kicking. Myself in the middle. And I believe over there is that Arthur French? Patricia Rogers. Patricia Hancock Rogers. Yeah. And in the back, George Edward Tate, who just made his transition, unfortunately. And George Edward Tate was a poet, a renowned poet, a writer, a musician. And Janet and Kim are very happy that they were able to document an interview with him before he passed on. So again, today is going to be a great interview, and Janet will talk more about that when she comes up. But thank you for coming out and enjoy yourself. Sit back and learn some real great history of our artists that came from our community and our soul and our hearts. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. And welcome. This is a very special Insight for a lot of reasons. Over the last couple of months, I started a new theater company called the AGM Theater Company. And I named it Adrian Graham Mitchell Theater Company after my mom. So this is our first event, and we're happy to have it and happy to have you here. So thank you for joining us. As Roger said, Insights is a look into the lives of our living legends. Mitchell Entertainment Group and AGM, we believe strongly in telling our stories. And so this is an opportunity to hear marvelous stories about the journey that Beverly, Crosby, and Maxine Brown have taken throughout their lives. So we want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the interview. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna live every day of my life like it's gonna be my last day.
Well, let me tell the audience a little bit about you. Beverly Crosby is not only a gifted singer and piano player, but is also an actress as well. She has appeared in several off-Broadway productions. To this day, Beverly remains active in the music scene, on the music scenes, and performed in several clubs around the New York area. So, welcome. Thank you. So Beverly, where are you from? Where were you born?
I was born in Pensacola, Florida.
Anybody from Florida? Uh-oh, okay, we have a couple in the house.
You have a couple in the house?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a nice place to be from.
All right. And tell us a little bit about your family growing up.
Oh, Beverly's growing up. Well, I thought we were rich, first of all. I didn't know that we were supposed to be poor because we had it all. And raised by a minister.
That must have been interesting.
Oh, child, yes. I was supposed to be that example for the other children because I was from the church.
And in the birth order, were you the youngest, in the middle, or?
Yes.
Yes.
I am the baby.
Uh-oh.
Yes, I am. My mother had 2 children, and I am the baby. And I have had 3 siblings prior by my father, and I'm still the baby.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
And when did you start getting interested in music?
Oh, Lord. My mother made sure that I was taking music at 3 years old. And that was nice. But I wasn't allowed to listen to anything other than gospel. And when I got 7 years old, I didn't want to do that anymore. Play piano. So I stopped.
And what did your parents say about that?
It was okay. It saved her money. Yeah, it saved her some money.
And what brought you back? Because you're such a gifted piano player.
That's what you say.
I think so.
Well, I played for the church when I was a teenager because I had to. And I got out of it, and then when I came to New York, it brought me right back to what I left. So now I'm teaching myself to read chords, and I already read notes, but chords is a difference. So.
And what attracted you to New York?
My father lived here, and when I moved back to Florida, it was kind of dead. So I needed to move somewhere that was exciting, and I came to New York because my father was here. Yeah.
Wow. Now, Beverly, what was the transition like for you from gospel music and your upbringing in the church to doing secular music?
I got involved in secular music because I had a friend who was a neighbor at the time. And we went shopping for the little 45 records. And she was very attractive. So the guy said to her, asked her, was she a model? And she said, no. She said, but my girlfriend sings a mean tune in the tub. And I didn't like that. I said, I don't understand that, and I don't think he understands that. Let him know that I'm married. So then he asked me, he says, you sing? And I said, in the church. And he just wrote a name and a number. And it took me like 3 months before I went. And I sang for the guy, and he didn't like it. And he threw a tape to me and said, don't come back until you learn it. So I did, 3 months later.
Wow. Wow. So what was it like raising kids and touring and that whole piece?
Oh my goodness. It was okay because I was gone. You know? And thank God I had a husband. And then I hired somebody to make sure that my girls, I have 3 girls, so I had to make sure that my girls got the proper care. So God bless me. You know, he let me just run and run and run. And he stayed on with his children, his children, his children.
Isn't that wonderful?
It is wonderful. It
Yeah.
really is.
You know, I have to tell the audience how I met Beverly. By day, I'm a social worker. So I was leaving my office one day, and there was this woman in the lobby, because there was a piano in the lobby. And I thought that Olita Adams had, visited us, and it was such beautiful music. I usually can't wait to get home, but I stayed and listened. And then I kept looking at her. I said, I know her from somewhere. And so when she finished her playing, I said, do you know my godmother? And she looked at me and she says, yes. And so we've been friends ever since.
Yeah.
Now, you worked in the music business back in the 60s, when it was a very different business than it is now.
I started in the music business in the 70s.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was having my children in the 60s.
Okay.
So I decided to do something else in the 70s. Yeah.
So what was the music scene like back then?
It was very strange for me. First of all, when I got there, it was, of course, I was green, and I got involved by just going to sing for this guy, and I got a manager right away. Millie Jackson and I had the same manager at the time, and I met a lot of people that I was just bombarded with. It was nice, and the first travel I did was Germany. In 76. But that was with a gospel group called the Patterson Singers. Anybody ever heard of them? Out of Brooklyn? No. Child, it was great. And then I went on and I joined the Crystals. How many of you heard of the Crystals?
So tell us a little bit about them.
What, the Crystals?
Yes, yeah.
Ooh. Well, you learn a lot. You think you're a little bully. And boy, these women that go on the road,
It's rough.
They're rough. They're worse than any man you can think of.
Wow.
I'm telling you. I mean, they don't play. They don't play at all. You're on the road. You have to hold your own. You're always fighting, not the group, but you're fighting with the audience, because you get a fan base immediately. And I was always the tallest in my group, whatever group I'm in. I'm always the tallest. So I was always singled out. Hey, I like that taller one over there. That's what they do to me. So, but it was great. It was a great experience, and I'm very happy that I got to the age whereas I can really appreciate where I've been and what I've done. Because it's only now that I kind of really appreciate and know what I'm doing.
What kind of music were you doing back in the 70s?
Aside from gospel, I was doing R&B. Yeah.
Singing in the clubs a little bit?
Oh, yeah. That was really nice. Yeah. But I was always nervous. I'm a little paranoid because I see all the people. I mean, well, all the people see me, and I can't see all the people. So that scared me a little bit. But I got over it. When I was on the road, I always get one of the guys from the band to be my husband.
There you go.
Yeah. So I tell them that's my husband, so nobody will bother me. Yeah.
Wow. And so in the 80s, what was happening for you in the 80s?
Well, the end of the 70s. The 80s was Japan.
Were you into the disco thing?
Yes,
that
I
was big.
Yeah,
back in the 70s.
I did a record, a disco record. And I think I was in between the 60s and not quite into the 70s. I came like in the middle, but Russia stole my song, and they still have the name, they still have the same music, and they still using my name, and I get not a dime.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, that's always a big issue, especially with African American artists, that their art, their publishing rights are just taken away.
Yes, it
and
is.
how would one stay away from that besides getting a good attorney to represent you?
Well, BMI has been pretty good, and they have someone else that I can't think of the name of that really made BMI step up. But they can go after them, and the people will stop for the moment. And as soon as it dies down, they right back.
Yeah.
They really are.
Growing up, who did you listen to?
My mother and my grandmother.
They were musicians?
No, they just sing around the house.
Oh, okay. They're musicians, right?
You know, they weren't. Well, let me see. How can I say this? I wasn't allowed to listen to the radio because of the secular music. But I do remember. How many of you remember transistor radios? Yeah. Well, I remember I got one. And I used to hide it between the pillow and the pillowcase, just in case my mama would snatch the pillow, and it won't be between the pillow and the mattress. I have it in there. And the first record that I really listened to and I loved was After Hours, and it was an instrumental music. It was really great. And then I learned how to play that.
Wow. So do you play by ear a lot?
Yes, I do. And music. Now in charts.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen you do a lot of different type of music. I've seen you do like some R&B and Thursday nights at the American Legion on 131st Street. 132nd between 7th and 8th. You can find Beverly singing there on Thursdays.
Singing jazz.
Singing jazz.
Doing jazz.
So when did you get into jazz?
About 2.5 years ago, I met a gentleman at a funeral, so he said. I didn't remember where I met him, but he thought I was someone else. A lot of people got me mixed up with B.J. Crosby. You know, B.J. Crosby was an actress, and Beverly Crosby was the singer / a little bit of acting. And he thought I was B.J., and he says, well, why don't you come and sing some jazz? And I said, I'm not a jazz singer. So he says, well, learn 2 songs, and we go. And we did. And we went upstate, and I heard this guy introduce it, and put your hands together for this bad actress, and she was in this play and that play, B.J. Crosby. So I said, now he's kidding me. And I didn't say anything. I went out and I did my little thing, and when I came back and after it was over, I said, honey, you think I'm B.J.? He said, yeah, I know you. No, I don't. You know. And he said, oh my God. I mean, the people were lined up, wanting the autograph. I said, now this is Beverly, not B.J. Yeah.
Do you have a preference? Because we know you do gospel, R&B, jazz,
Country and Western.
yes, the list goes on.
Yes, it goes on. I really don't. I love all genre of music. I really do. And it makes me feel good to just try all of them. I don't limit myself. I don't put myself in a spot. You know, I want to be able to be noted for anything there is. Anything that I can do will either drop the key or try to sing it in the key. But it's going to be dropped, not go high, that's for sure. Yeah.
So when did you get interested in acting? Because you've been in a couple of plays, and you know Miss Jeanette.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I don't remember, but I just know that I came off the road. I think I was somewhere. And someone mentioned it to me, and I said, why not? And I went. And they had the nerve to accept me. So, I mean, that's how that happened, literally. And it's a good experience. It really is.
Is it something that you would like to do more of?
Yeah, but you're going to have to get somebody to really work with me.
And why is that?
Because I don't remember. Honey, the mind, it goes. It says I'm on pause. But yeah, I would love to do that again. I worked with Miss Jeanette under 3 shows, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes you an official Hadley player.
Yeah, I am an yeah. I am a Hadley player. Yes, I really am.
Now, in terms of young people and music today, what advice would you give a young person who's looking to pursue a career in music?
I would just, what I did, if it's something that you enjoy doing, do it. I remember when I was called to be with the Crystals, and my grandmother, who's the minister's wife, was visiting me. And I was so happy. I said, oh, Mommy, guess what? I'm going to be a Crystal. And she said to me, Beverly, you cannot sing for the devil and the Lord too. And I mean, it just broke my heart. But my grandfather, the minister, said, honey, God made it all. You go and be successful. And that's what I tried to do. Yeah.
What is the key to longevity in this business of entertainment? Because a lot of things could happen, and I think that it's especially tough for women in the business.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I was one of those people, you know, I was kind of like hardcore. When I got in the business, everything they said you have to be on the couch. And I felt like if I wasn't sitting there, I had no business there. So I made that very clear. And I was literally told that you'll never do anything because you don't know what to do. And I thought it was fine because my life had been for a while. I had been married. I had my children. And I made a little money at that time. It's gone now. But I didn't need that. And I'm not into drugs. I've never been into drugs. And I've seen too many people lose everything. Everything. If they had 1,000,001, they lost 1,000,001 plus. I've seen it. It just didn't make sense to me. So I think I'm very blessed in that field. I was never impressed by it.
Now tell us, you have a production company.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your company and what you do and what you're looking to do and what you've done, because you've done a lot of tremendous things with tenure.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I've done is I got it established, and I work with churches under that name, put on different plays for different churches under that name, gotten groups together and sung around. It's like a fundraiser. What I want to do is to continue in a larger scale. I'm still learning. I have not yet mastered it. it's a lot to do, and I'm trying to do that. Or I'm trying to get people to do that, or to show me exactly what it is. But a tan yard is great. A tan yard is my community in Pensacola. That's where I was raised, in that area. And it has done a lot of things for me. It made me the person that I am. They're now beginning to do other things. As a matter of fact, God spare me, next year I'll be going home to work for my community. I'm going to put on a show there, and it's really wonderful. I'm in the Music Hall of Fame in Pensacola. I have all the little plaques and the little whatever it is that I need to be recognized. And young people are recognizing me now, as opposed to people my age. Yeah.
With regards to the journey that you've been on, what are you most proud of?
I'm proud of all of it. I really am. I don't think that there's anything that I can say I'm not proud of. I was very fortunate. I've been around a lot of great people. My best friend was Benny King, which passed, 2-3 years ago. Yeah. And he made sure that I was around all of the people that I needed to be around. I played golf with celebrities, you know, Smokey Robinson, The Temptations, Martha Reeves. They kept me motivated. Lionel Hampton used to come just to eat. You know, I didn't cook. No. That's one thing I didn't do. But little Jimmy Scott, and they always just throw little things at you and say, you know, go for it. If you believe it, you go for it. Don't let anybody tell you any different. And I don't. I don't.
And what are you looking to do in the future? What's top on your list that you want to do?
I'll leave a legacy for my children. I want Tan Yard to continue, and I want it to grow. And I want it to make a great statement. And even after I'm gone, I really want somebody to pick up that baton and run with it. Tan Yard is a great...
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great company.
Well, Beverly, we are honored to have you. And it has been my pleasure.
Yes.
And you're going to come back because we're going to have a third part of the interview with the Wild Women.
When my friends told me you had someone new, I didn't believe a single word was true. I showed them all I had of faith in you. I just kept on saying, oh no, not my baby. Oh no, not my sweet baby.
Maxine.
Yes.
What attracted you to the music business? Because you've never left.
Well, when I was knee-high, as far as back as I could remember, God, what a long time that was. Anyway, I could go to church with my mother, and my mother could sing a little, but she never aspired for anything else. But I was always singing, and I was trying to get my sister to sing, and we formed our first group called the Angeliers, but my sister was the tenor, and I was always the one who was pushing, come on, let's sing. Oh, I don't feel like this. And we had to always be doing this to her, and she We put her out of the group. And she had a pretty voice, but we just threw her out. And so we started singing as the Angel Leaders then. And that's how I started.
Wow. And where are you from originally?
South Carolina. Oh, I'm so sorry. South Carolina.
And when did you come to New York?
Oh, you don't want to hear about that. I came in 19 and it was okay. I can't remember that far back. But I was 9 years old.
Okay.
And we came to New York. And and there's quite a horrible story behind that. We won't go into it now. We'll wait till you buy my book. But I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
We were kidnapped.
Really?
Yeah. With the posse out looking for us and everything. It was,
You and your mom and your sister?
yes,
Yes.
and we were running from you know who.
Papa.
Yeah. It's pretty sad. If you think Tina Turner had a horrible story, it's similar, something similar to that. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And when you came to New York, how did you start to get into the music business?
I didn't, but I remember one little scene. My mother took me, first of all, we were scared of this thing called a subway. You know, never seen anything to go underground and all of this. And I remember she took me to 42nd Street. And we come out of this hole in the ground, and I looked up, and my God, I saw all these tall buildings. I've never seen anything like that in my life. And I looked around and saw the lights, and I said, one day, I'm gonna be up there.
Wow.
Just, I don't know, it's just one of those feelings, you know?
And what was the journey like from deciding that you wanted to be a singer to getting to meeting people to put you in that position where you could sing for the public? What was that journey like for you?
Well, like I said, it started early from church, and once you're in church, everything's, they keep it evolving, you know, and you go from church, and then we started the groups going out singing at other churches, and a friend of mine said, he came to me one day and said, oh, I hadn't seen him in a long time since we've been in church. He says, we're looking for another voice in our group. We don't want a guy, we want a girl this time, like the Platters.
Okay,
And so, and he said, we would love to have you sing with us. I said, oh no, those church people would kill me if I started doing rock and roll. What they call it then, rock and roll. And he said, but we're getting paid. I said, whoa. So anyhow, I started with the group. And we were pretty good. But then a lot of the guys were still young, and they were drafted into the service, and so the group broke up, and it went down to 3, and it went down to 2, and there's nobody. And so I went to hear a friend of mine sing in Jamaica, Long Island, and he invited me up on stage to sing, and I said, I don't know how to sing those songs, but I knew one called Misty. I knew Misty. And I got up and sang that, and I just ran back to my seat, and I'm sitting there, and during the break, the guy came to me, and so I felt somebody standing over me, and I looked up, and he says, could you come with me? I said, no, I don't know you. And he says, excuse me, I'll start again. He says, we're too close to the bandstand. The band is too loud. I'd like to talk to you. Would you step back here with me? Then I got up and just pranced to the back. I said, oh, why didn't you say so? Okay. So went back there, and he's telling me, he says, you sound pretty good. He says, you want to work here? Well, I said, I guess, well, I don't know. So he says, I'll give you weekends. And so I was so happy, I went out and bought me 3 little dresses and with little things bouncing all over it. And so, next thing you know, I'm singing at this club. Well, this particular guy handled another artist. And he had some trouble with her, and some people took her away from him and put her into the Apollo Theater, and he lost her. So he and the leader of the band that was there that night had they had a recording date, and they were going to record the guitar player from that group, and they were going to record this girl. So they've got her. Some people, these kind of guys, they interfere. And so the next thing you know, you're it. He lost her. So they booked the studio in Manhattan. And so when I got there, I said, "Where's the music? Where's the thing? Who's gonna do what? You know?" And so he said, "No, we're gonna do that song you wrote." What? So I played the piano a little bit, and so I had to tell the band what to do, and I wanted the song to go a certain way, and so the guitar player had a long extension cord, and he was telling the band everything I was playing, and I said, I want everybody to do this, and they did, and I got up now, because I can't play and sing, so I got up, threw my head back, and started singing, and it just happened to have had a trombone player on the session, and the trombone made that sound, and as what I was trying to tell them to do, and I threw my, and then the other guy took up so much time. We only had time for 2 takes, and that was it. And that demo that we made that night turned out to be a million seller, and we never went in the studio and re-recorded. That demo was it.
Wow.
All in my mouth.
Now, when you was active, extremely active in the business in the early part of your career, who were some of your contemporaries?
Gladys Knight, Patti LaBelle, even the Supremes, and all of that. Okay. And the Impressions and Jerry Butler. Yeah, those people. Yeah.
And did you guys used to back at that time? I believe there used to be the tours where a lot of groups would go out and tour at one time. Were you part of that whole thing?
Oh yes, I was.
And who did you tour with?
I toured with the Temptation, Gladys. A lot of us were on that bus. Yeah. And there's something about that particular engagement. That one started out of New York, and picked up people as we went along. And when we got to get the tour together, and we started out, there was a young man that they picked up in New York. He was supposed to help the bus driver, relieve him when he couldn't. But this young kid was so excited about being on the bus with all these entertainers at once, and he, at every stop we made, he would get dressed up, stand out front, and trying to pick up girls. And he would say, "I'm with the Temptations." And they'd look at him, the people would be anxious to get inside. They'd look at him and say, "So?" Then this went on show after show. This particular night, the same thing happened. And he's supposed to be asleep to relieve the driver. Well, he had the first shift. And as the Temptations would come off, they would hit the bus, change clothes, hit the bus, and they'd fall asleep, and the next person, because we were hitting towns after towns. And so we get the bus cranked up, and we're rolling down the highway. And everybody's sleeping. All of a sudden we heard, and everybody's waking up, and next to the window, it was trees hitting and hitting the bus, and the bus is going down, and it jumped the curb and down in the ditch, crossed the ditch into somebody's yard, and picked up some long johns. And the bus is going everywhere, and now everybody's screaming. And so the bus finally made it back to the highway. And when the bus stopped, they had long johns and everything trailing, and clotheslines trailing behind the bus. Well, the Temptations got up and they jumped on him, and they said, if you don't do that again. And the next thing, we sat him down, and this poor child, he behaved the rest of the day. Those are the scary but fun stuff. But you hear about people having accidents everywhere in the ditch. Everywhere.
Now you worked with one of my favorites, Stevie Wonder.
Oh, yeah. I worked with him with what's the one with the guitar? Chuck Berry. Skips along. Chuck Berry. Yeah, Chuck Berry. On Chuck Berry show, and he was a kid all over the place. He was young. And he played every instrument and banged on everything. But he was great. But he was he was cute. Back then,
What's one of your fondest memories of that particular period?
Fondest? I don't think we had too much to be fond of. Because Gladys and I, we did a tour. I think we ended up in Charlotte. And there's no dressing room. And there's nothing. You're going to the South. And then if you're black, you work on the other side of the tracks. So that's the way it is. And there were no hotels that would take you in. And the only one we give credit to is the Holiday Inn at that time. And the Holiday Inn took us in without any incident. But getting back to that, now Gladys, her guys, my guys, when we put the two cars together, threw our robes over the windows. That was our dressing room. And the guys lifted us up on the stage because the gowns were too tight. But the town turns out for a show.
Wow.
They really do.
Wow. You know, and what's so commendable is a lot of young people who really don't know our history have no clue as to what you guys had to face. You know, traveling in those towns, not being able sometimes to use a bathroom, a restaurant, and you still were able to get up there and put on an outstanding show after dealing with all of that.
Well, that reminded me of the time we were in Charlotte, and it was pretty bad then. So we all rode into town, run into the hotel, and the only hotel, and so you smell that good food, good fish fry and everything as you come in the hotel, and I wanted fish, so I ate fish, and I didn't know I swallowed a bone, and kept doing this all night. We did the show, and I'm doing this all night, but we got through the show, and so the next morning as we were leaving, I couldn't take this anymore, so I asked, is there a doctor in this town that I can go to? So somebody told me of someone, and I went, and just as I got to the front door, everybody in there said, no, they were doing this, and so I slammed the door, and you have to go, and they kept pointing, you have to go around the back. Okay, so I went around the back and went in the door that you're supposed to go in. It's the same room. It's the same room. I wasn't supposed to come in that. So, and then pretty soon the doctor saw me, and he acted like he didn't want to touch me. But anyway, he says, open up, and I opened up, and there was a bone this long stuck sideways in my throat. And that's when he behaved like a doctor and a human being. Wow. Right then and there, he said, wait, let me get my instruments until we get this out. And got it out. He said, where y'all from? I said, New York. Yeah, so that's it. But he didn't become human until he saw the situation. But you work under every condition. And we've been shot at. I was on the Jackie Wilson tour, and they pulled shotguns on us there. And because we got off the bus, and I guess it was too many of us running around the gas station. Because we'd get out the bus and we'd play touch football, so and so we had fun. Y'all got to get out of here.
Maxine, what was your first European trip like, getting out of the United States and traveling overseas?
Oh yeah, I went to England.
Okay.
Nice. And I'm in touch with that promoter to this day because he was the one who talked me into to going over. And it's nice, and I go. He sends for me every now and then. I still work over there, and they call it the Northern Scene. So they know everything that you have ever done, and so it's fun working over there. Even in Germany, I went to Spain, South America, and I went with my dear friend Beverly for the first time to Japan. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so,
do you have a favorite place to perform?
No, just get out there.
Just get out. Now, what's the key to your longevity? Because you stay at it. You are as active as I don't know what.
Yeah. I was one of those living room children, you know. Mom, look at what I can do. Look, just out there. Yeah.
Yeah. And you act as well. You've been in a couple of plays.
One in particular on Broadway. That's what really counts. Yeah. I was in Don't Bother Me, I Can't Call. I did that for 1 year, and the thing about that, they didn't have an understudy for me. Ooh, yes, that's rough. And I was wondering why they were so nice to me and making sure oh, you don't have to go home. You could stay here and we could make it comfortable. Because, why? Because there's nobody. So anyhow, there's two incidents. One was I didn't know whether to drive in one time or take the train. It was just hard getting in on time, traffic and everything. So the first incident was I decided to take the train. And the train stopped at Penn Station about 3 feet from the platform. And you couldn't call, in those days you go to the corner phones.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I joined the show in '74. Okay, so they still had phone booths and whatnot, that's working, okay. And so when I finally got out and I finally called the theater and said, I'm stuck here on the train. Now remember, they didn't have an understudy for me, so I didn't know that they were still holding the show. And they did, and so thank God the people stayed. Everybody stayed, and the show went on.
Wow.
The second incident, I'm trying to make it in again, and I decided to drive in. I drove, and I hit the Long Island Expressway and heard bang! Whoa! Then the tire. And there was one of those long trucks, and he saw where I was in trouble in the speeding lane, and he said, "Bar, bar," and I looked in my mirror, and so he signaled for me for the next exit, and he drove his truck across the highway so that somebody coming up on the right could see me and wouldn't hit me. And I saw that next exit, got off, and I'm trying to call people and call the repair, the road service. They couldn't find me. So, okay, this day we were supposed to do something that night after the show. So I had a long evening gown on. Pulled it up to here, climbed in the trunk, threw the spare wheel out because I couldn't lift it, and I threw it out, rolled and jumped out of the trunk, and put the thing and hooked it up, put the lugs back in, and 1, 2, 3, on my way, boom.
What advice do you have for young people who are interested in the entertainment business?
Study what you're doing, whether it's acting, singing, you know, try to learn the craft.
Yeah. What's the best part of being an entertainer?
You get to go a lot of places. Because if Europe is calling, they have to pay us, because we don't make reservations for flights. All that's handled for you. You go. You just go. Food is taken care of. After show, entertainment is taken care of. So it's nice. It's nice.
What are you looking to do in the future?
Good. Glad you said that. So we can have a future.
Oh, absolutely. A bright one at that.
Well, I'm still writing, and I want to finish this book. And I have dear friends who are helping, and who let me see, what else I want to do. I sing when I feel like it. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that I really admire about you, there's several, is that you, and a lot of entertainers sometimes don't get that because they see show as the big piece of it. But you see show business and you understand the business end of it and how it's
Finally, but we don't get that in the beginning. None of us did. And the era that I came along, and all the doo-wop groups, they just wanted to sing, you know, from their heart, and they be out in the street singing under the street lights, and they make it, and then they're the guys looking to prey upon them, and they do, and take advantage of all of us. We all, if somebody told me, oh, I got through without getting burned, I don't know who they knew.
Right.
Because all of us got burned by somebody, by the record company, by the managers especially. Yeah, it was pretty hard out there.
So it's learning by those experiences
Yes.
to where you are today
Yeah.
in terms of, you know,
But that's what
protecting.
my era and people before me and people after me. But the people today have it different. Look at the young kids, you know, who has made it. And they learn about publishing. They know how to protect their songs that they write. And back in the day, you would give away a song just to get a part, just to do something. So, but it's good for the kids today because they learn. Yeah, they learn the business better than they can entertain.
Yeah. But the thing is that you and people of your generation and people before you have really set the foundation and have paved the way for the success that young people are really having today. It is because of your journey and what you had to go through back in the 50s and the 60s on those buses. And so we applaud you. It has been my honor to speak with you, and we're just so honored that you are here. So you're going to come back and talk about your group with Beverly Crosby,
Okay.
the Wild Women.
I'm gonna tell you something, ain't gonna tell you no lie. Why women are the only ones that really get by. Why women don't worry. Why women don't have the
So tell us about Wild Women.
Tell how it started. Yeah.
Well, it started as 3 women, Ella Garrett, Maxine Brown, and myself. Ella was asked to do blues, and she loved blues. And she came to me and said, I need for you and Maxine to help me do the blues. I said, honey, I don't like the blues.
Yes, I ain't like it either.
And I said, Maxine don't like the blues. So if you want Maxine to do it, you ask Maxine. I'm not going to tell you what she said. But anyway, I did ask Maxine to do it. And I think I told you to do it. I said, we're going to do this for Ella, and that's going to be it. So we did, and someone saw us that Maxine knew.
That I knew, yeah.
Yeah, and it was in Jersey. And he had a meeting with Maxine and myself after that, and asked to change our names from the Contraltos,
Yeah.
because we were all alto and tralto, to the Wild Women because he liked that song. And we said, fine. So they said, find a place where you can work and see how long you can work there, just to see how long things would go. And we did. We went to Lundell's. And we were there until Toya, our musical director, father was very sick in Japan. and he had to leave. I think we were there, what?
Yeah.
How long were we there?
We were there a good 6 months. We stayed
About
there.
6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had a good time, too.
Made a home there.
Yeah, we did. It was really nice. But Ella is the one who really created it, and Maxine's friend asked us to change the name. And we researched the name.
The name.
Well, you can tell that.
Well, we found out that there's a whole porno channel going So when you go searching for us, you find both.
How was it being a part of a group? Because both of you had a solo career.
Yeah.
So that had to be a different experience.
I don't know. I don't know. God must have put us together because we had a special sound, and we've been looking for a replacement for Ella, and there is none.
Not really. You can't replace her.
She's gone on.
But you know what? First of all, we were friends. That's first of all. And if any of you who know and remember Ella had a mouth on her. And she will tell you just how she feels. She didn't care who you was, who you thought you was, and who you may become. She just said, it's A, B, and C in the story. And that's what it was. I thank God for her.
Yeah.
We really miss her. She was really, what is that word?
Just special.
Yeah,
Special.
she's just a special lady.
And she wrote our opening.
Oh, yeah,
She wrote our opening song.
Wow.
Wild Women Don't Have the Blues.
Yeah.
Wow.
No.
What?
No. We came here to have a real good time.
No, but the title is Wild Women. No, we can't.
We came here to have a real good. Excuse us.
That's the wrong song.
How long have you known each other? And how did you meet?
I'm gonna let you have your half in there.
Well, my friend that I run to Texas all the time to see, she and I went out to this club, and Beverly was working there. And I said, whoa, we like this act. So we followed her to the next engagement on 125th Street, and we became friends ever since. And then she would call me once a year and say hello. We met, and
Now I have a different story.
Okay.
We have a mutual girlfriend. And some of you may know her, Sandra Reed Phillips. Lean on me. Okay. Sandra was crazy about Maxine. She wanted to look like Maxine. She wanted to act like Maxine. She was trying to sing like Maxine. Well, anyway, we were tight, and I don't know, Maxine and her got together. Remember that?
yeah,
Coming back?
because I knew her from, she was one of those people, Broadway can be cutthroat also.
Yeah.
And when I was trying to audition for those things down there, she was the only one who reached out to help, to say, here, this is the way you do it. And I really appreciated her for that, because all of a sudden you're thrown into something, and like, I had 3 days to learn the entire script of Don't Bother Me, I Can't. I learned it in 3 days. The theater manager took me home with her, didn't let me go to Long Island, and every time I'd be asleep, she'd say, what verse are you in now? I'd wake up, but she stayed on me, and I have to be grateful to her, the stage manager, because she cared enough to spend her free time with me, and so that was a lesson within itself. And so out of it, I got to be a quick study. 3 days. You had to learn a whole show.
Wow.
It's something else, yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
But she came to see me.
She came to see you.
Isn't that something? Maxine Brown comes to see Beverly Crosby.
Now, when I go to visit you guys, they're on the piano working, singing, and you're gonna get a show when you go to their house. When you go to Beverly's house or when you go to Maxine's house,
Yeah.
you know, you're gonna talk music and it's just really beautiful. And your friendship is so beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, this is what we call Black woman magic. Yeah. To be able to
We
work.
can write a song.
Yeah, there you go. So we're going to now open it up to have the audience ask some questions of these beautiful women. So the floor is open.
My name is Beverly. It's an honor to be here. I just finished my master's degree in Sarah Lawrence in women's history, and I did my thesis on the women of Motown. I worked on Esther Gordy Edwards, and so I went to Detroit and I did a lot of research for the past 3 years. But I was really interested in women who sang Northern soul music. A lot of it because my grandmother had her roots in the South, and on my mother's side and my father's side. And I know, Miss Brown, you're from Kingstree.
Yeah.
Which my family is from Sumter, but I have aunts from Kingstree, and I have one of my aunts is one of the first Black politicians down there. So it was an honor actually to be here even more. But my question was, in my research, I saw very little about relationships that Black female singers during the 50s and 60s had, and I wanted to know if you guys can talk a little bit to that, because I've seen a lot of the relationships that the men had, like with Sam Cooke. I know you both probably most likely knew him, and Jackie Wilson. I know there's a picture of you and Jackie Wilson, Miss Brown, playing a 10-city tour in Chicago with the Four Tops. I don't know, it was in Jet Magazine. And my research, it's just all part of my research I've had. So if you could just speak to that. And also for me, as just a historian, also a young Black woman who has family in the South, talking about the Chitlin Circuit and that representation of that for Black women specifically.
At the time, I think I had it pretty good as far as that's concerned. Fairly well. But I don't know, you grow up fast. Yeah, you grow up fast, and it was okay. It was okay. I got by.
Did you form any friendships with other women while touring?
Yeah, Smokey Robinson and his wife, you know.
Okay.
All the girls would hang together. Jerry Butler's wife. If you're on that show, yeah. So we formed a very good relationship, even now.
Great, great. Any other questions?
I just want to know, where do you get your inspiration to write songs or, your music and stuff? What, does it wake you up in the middle of the night? Where does it come from?
Well, the first thing I ever wrote was All in My Mind. And this happened when I was with this male group. And he said, well, you never lend anything to the group. And so, here, take this. He had a piece of paper and a title. And he said, here, take this and have it by next rehearsal. And I rolled my eyes at him. Because the way he said it was like, I told you to do it, you do it. And I just resented it because I've come out of a situation male-dominated like that. And so I took the paper and I went home. I was so angry. And I sat down there and I thought about all the women. And I said, I just can't write about my situation. But if I could just think of all women in general. And I did. I think that you don't care. Every woman. And it's more than I can bear. I don't know, because maybe I'm just thinking things. And it started that way. I know I've been true, but honey, sweetie, baby, what?
Thank you.
And then you say, I don't know. It's all in my mind. And so that's how the inspiration conversation started. And a woman recently, she was telling me about her situation and what it used to be with her and her husband, and they separated. And so they were talking one time after that, and she said, you know, with both of us in love with you, there's no room in this relationship for me to go anywhere. And so that was an inspiration to me, so that's how I finish.
Thank you. And you?
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, I wrote a song called United We Stand, and I was like 2 years before my time, the 9/11, and you notice their logo is United We Stand. Don't worry, I didn't get a dime. But I was asked to write because I was dealing with the United Nations a lot. And I was asked to write something about it, which I didn't know. And they gave me a pamphlet to read. And I wrote about it, and then I dedicated it to them. And it was for people who were sent to different countries, and terrorists would kill them. You know, it don't have to be a singer, it could be a domestic person, but for whatever reason you were sent to a different country, you know, they were killed. So we decided to raise money for these people, their families, and I wrote the song United We Stand. And it talks about the how the United Nations got together. It was 6 different countries, and I want y'all to know Africa was not one of them. Wow. But it was 6 different countries, and I've had about 8 children, and we put our little African beat in there, and they sang. And Kofi Annan and his wife were empowered at that time, Ben Gurion. So it went over really well, and it's still out there. So go look for it. United We Stand.
And we presented it.
Oh, yeah. I have to say this, and I'm through with this. I wrote the song, I recorded the song, had children to sing in part of it. Maxine takes the song, goes home, and writes it out. So when we got on stage, we closed the General Assembly with the
main room.
The main room.
Yeah.
And Maxine saw the children standing there and waiting to sing their part. And some lady, I don't know what her nationality was, but she switched up and she was in front of the children. And Maxine flipped. Girlfriend got up, honey, sashayed her little self up there, did this to the lady. Oh my Lord. And then told the children, and they looked right at her, and it went wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Renee Dunn. I've taught history for almost 40 years, and one of the things I did in my classroom was use music to describe the times and era of a particular historical period through music. There's a question I need to ask. What do you think we need to do as adults today to have young people understand or listen to your music? Because other cultures, you have children this small who knows Three Dog Night, who knows many of these other groups that came out during the 60s and 70s, and they know them well. So what do we need to do? Because a lot of black kids are not aware of your music, you know. However, when my husband and I go traveling to Europe quite a bit, we've gone to Barcelona, they're playing old soul music. We've gone to France, they're playing it. And the basis of a lot of many of these Europeans who sing soulfully is because they're listening to your music.
Absolutely.
So therefore, you know, what can we do as far as our children are concerned so they can too appreciate this type of historical background?
That is a problem because, like I said earlier, I've gone to all of the places you just mentioned, and they know everything about us.
Yeah.
They take time to research us, and they told me who I had on a recording session. I said, I did. Because we're here in New York, and you hire musicians, but they study them and they think that these are your musicians. And they know all about you, where you come from. And I just wish that we could do more of that here in America.
Yeah.
And we forget about our own. And I'm not just talking about just blacks, but it's America. What's next? You know, and they go on to the next thing.
I teach Japanese people to sing American songs, and I've been doing this for the past 20 years. And you're right, these children know, they know what finger hits what note. I don't know, we're just not interested in anything. The only thing I can say to you is that you continue to let them hear what is being done or what we've done on a whole, because they're not getting it at home. My children knows all about the old music because their mom is old, and I played it. But when I came along, I only knew about gospel because that's where I was. But the other cultures, they know everything. I taught a Japanese boy to sing American music, and he gave me a gift 3 weeks later. And everybody used to want to hear me sing, what was that song? Neither One of Us. And boyfriend sent me a CD of him singing Neither One of Us Sounded Like Me. I'm serious. So they're well aware of our culture, and they're going to continue to do that. We just have to get our children involved. We have to make sure that they hear all kinds of music.
Then what about the time when you got all of us together and we learned Japanese?
Oh, child, that was something.
We had to actually sing in Japanese, and we did it right here in Central Park.
Yes, we did.
Central Park.
The tsunami. They had the tsunami. And, and I was asked to get 30 Harlem children together and to celebrate the first year of the tsunami. And we did it at Central Park. They didn't tell me we had to learn Japanese. But our kids were so fluent in presenting it. I mean, they thought it was the cat's meow.
And they were ready right on time.
Ready.
And then they brought in, at the final mix when we went to the studio, they brought in the seniors, the senior Japanese
100
people. And this is old school, old school. I mean, they were
99
old.
years old.
And when they heard our Harlem kids sing true Japanese, they were blown away.
Yes, they were.
And those kids learned it like that. They soaked it up and they remembered. No paper, no holding no paper. They knew it. And they made us proud.
Yeah, they did.
Hello.
Hello.
It's an honor and a privilege to be here, to know you as a friend. But I'm curious, you say you were blessed in not having too hard a time to travel and adjust back in the 60s, 70s. But I'd like to know, to both of you, how did you stay so beautiful and so elegant and so reachable to someone who met you on a bus and told you you would not get any backstage passes to my singing. And you ingratiated me. How did you sidestep being a diva? in the mean sense, not in the, you know what I'm saying, right? In the, you know, I want my cup of tea with 3 lemons and it has to be hot on the 3rd shelf and all like that kind of thing.
I didn't do that.
Oh, okay.
Well, we just like what we do, and secondly, we don't do drugs
Yeah.
and all of that, or whatever goes, and we're not hot and cold running women or running all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, and no, and plus we like what we do, and we were brought up pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff.
My question is, I guess I have to identify myself.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Juanita Howard, and I'm a sociologist. And all of that goes along with the two of you. What about the Apollo Theater? What about the Apollo?
Oh my goodness.
That's where we saw you.
That's every entertainer's dream, just to play that Apollo Theater, black or white, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
That's their dream, and I'm so happy that it's right here in Harlem, and it's ours, and it's great. And I could tell you, my first experience being there, we got this hit song, everything is hurry up. I didn't even have the clothes, they were making the clothes as I was approaching the date, and when I realized where I was, and I was nervous and my knees were shaking, and oh gosh, now I'm on, and I know I'm up next, and I have to stand up for this one, because I don't know if you are aware, maybe the old timers will remember, that microphone at the Apollo Theater used to go down. Okay. We got an amen on that one. Amen. Well, I was so nervous, and it's time for me, and I've never been in this situation. Somebody gently pushed me in my back when my name was called, and I went out there, but there's 2 stories in this. You better tell it. See,
Tell it. Right here.
a little short story before this, because someone asked me, how did you know how to act? And
Yeah.
I think you asked me that question one time. How do you know how to act when you get on stage? And did you have training and all that? No, the other people did. We don't. You just go. But I had a girlfriend who, like her, gets me into everything. So she said, we're going to be models. So I said, we are? She said, yeah. So we went to this school, this little school, right here in Harlem, and run by Mr. Willie.
Mr. Willie.
Uh-oh, someone knows Mr. Willis.
Do you know Mr. Willie?
I modeled Mr. Willie.
Well, this is just the beginning. Well, she was more street savvy than I was, so we did our model. But Mr. Willie could actually do that walk and everything, so he had us walking with books on our heads, and doing that thing and knowing how to pivot and so forth and things like that. And we practice and practice and practice. My friend would say, okay, now it's time to quit. We don't want to do that anymore. And so when I remember now, back to the little push in my back, and I went out on stage. And my knees were knocking. I was scared to death. When I got out there and started singing the song, and the audience was going crazy and everything, and there's that microphone, and I suddenly realized where I was, and I grabbed the microphone. And I got the microphone, and I'm near the bridge of the song, the high part of the song, oh, and then the next thing you know, this mic moved. and it moved, and it moved, and you stay straight. And it moved, and I got all the way down, but Mr. Willie taught us don't let your knees hit, lady doesn't let her knees hit the floor like, so we just politely, I just took it just so far, and I'm still holding on to this mic. And as I finished the bridge, and I came up like this, and people went nuts when this happens all the time. And I said, from now on, it'll be in the show.
That's wonderful.
My experience with the Apollo Theater, I was hired to be the singer for the, what is it, amateur night? I was hired to do the intermission part. They didn't boo me. Play that. So, what was the guy named that
Puerto Rico.
No, not Puerto Rico.
Oh, Sandman.
No, the one that introduced you.
Oh, Willie Bryant.
The MC was at the time.
Willie Bryant.
No. Anyway.
Okay.
No. No. Anyway, he came out, and after the first half of the people did their little thing, he said, now listen, do not boo this lady. She is not trying to get a gig. This is her gig. So just listen. I didn't care how bad I sound, how good I sound. It was all right. I was working. So that was the first time I was in the Apollo. Since then, I've been hired to sing on that stage, in which I'm very honored.
Thank you.
And we went back as the Wild Women.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We took Ella.
Yeah.
Well, one more question. Okay. Hi. How y'all doing this evening? Good. Just come up a little bit.
Now that's Ruth.
Oh, that's Ruth.
That's
Okay.
Hi, Ruth. My question was to Beverly about what she said in her last statement, preserving the legacy. I know that you started 10-yard productions and possibly your kids will have that go on, but are there other ways that we can get our children to preserve our legacy? We have a lot of great educators in our family and people that have gotten letters from congressmen and people that have done, community activists, and they really have a legacy, and our families throw away our things sometimes, or they don't see it as important. Yeah. So, what do you propose that could be some
I don't have an answer for that because you said a key word. I have a daughter. Honey, she throws everything I have away. And she tells me all the time, she says, Mommy, this is for me. We're not talking about you. I said, oh, okay. But we have to find a way to get our children to preserve the things that we have, because it really upsets me when I read something and some other culture talking about their parents, and they have something, yeah, she was 105 and we still have her first slip. Something like that. I don't know. I just preserve. You should see my closet. I have everything. And I'm not throwing anything out.
There's one question here.
I'd like to say a couple of things. I'm going to say it fast. You don't have to comment on them all. But I think when we're talking about our children today and what is happening when we came along, we had integration. You're forgetting that. When we started integration, there was the family units. It was you didn't have to learn anything else about yourself. You're supposed to be running around other cultures. We didn't have true history in school. So this is why we're going through all of these issues now. And the parents weren't taught, so how are they going to teach their children? And the next one was You ladies seem to have had so many jobs and didn't have difficulty getting into your craft. I don't hear anything about an agent, about anyone introducing you to whatever, not at all, and yet you work continuously, seemingly. So I think that's really...
I talk my way through. I really do. I never really, I had a manager once when I first started, but then for some reason, anywhere or anything I had to do, I just, somebody say, hey, and I said, hi, and it just went on from there.
Well, my last question is, such beautiful ladies, you talk so independently. Where were they? Husbands, boyfriends, or whatever. You know, we weren't free to just be ourselves.
Well, I was fortunate. I had a husband, and I have 4 children. And I don't know why he did it. I didn't question it. But he was there, and he allowed me to hire someone to help him. So I ran around the world, and my babies were taken care of by their dad and Miss Earling. God bless the dead.
Well, it's so great to hear that.
Yeah.
Because and you know, most black women don't leave their children generally.
Oh.
So I think that's remarkable that you have that freedom.
Okay, a quick question, because we're going to close out.
And I was just this. The reason why I went into history because I started as a performer, and I realized I kept on reading books about black entertainers, and they were all written by white men. And I said the only way for us to basically catalog our history, and from our perspective, is for artists to basically become historians. That's how I ended up in grad school. So what happened with me with my research is I was finding all these great black people and black performers and singers, but there was nothing to research about them because there was nothing archived, right? So what I found out was the Gordy family, what they did was they donated all their archives, all their materials, their family letters from college, family letters from the military, to a particular college or a museum. And that's what I urge you to do. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm one of the few people out of my generation that I know who's actually interested in this. I was listening to Motown and old school soul when I was 10. But my sisters and them would listen to Boogie Down Production and all the hip hop stuff. I'm a rarity. I'm texting my one friend that I found who happens to be a young white guy who can name every song you guys sing. Right? And so here I am, one of the few young black women that actually knows this. Who actually can say, oh yeah, baby Washington, I can go down the list, right? And so here's the thing for me, here's the thing I'm gonna advise you, and I can help you with this too. Every letter that you've written, every picture that you have, put it in a box, catalog it, and have a relationship with any of the colleges. So when people like me come around wanting to write a thesis on you, we can do that because we have the information.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.